Good morning from the Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine Railroad. We are here live on video shop tour number 2, and we are over here looking at line shaft bass reinstallment. And today we've got a guest, Mr. Greg Haywood, shop manager here at the Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine Railroad. He's going to tell us a little bit about what we're doing.
All right, we are going to fit our line shaft brass halves together with shims so that the line shaft can roll in there without being pinched, heating up, and provide lubrication to the line shaft here. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to put some oil on the shaft itself. You don't want to put a dry bearing on a shaft like this and rotate it around because you might scratch it. And of course, I've already cleaned the line shaft with a good cleaner. We use a well drilling oil, rock drilling oil, which is very sticky. It's good for the bearings. So we're going to take the first half of our line shaft brass, we're going to lay it in here. We're going to roll it over here, and you'll probably notice I've got boards underneath there that helps the bearing, keep the bearing from sliding completely through and onto the other side, because these are heavy. Now I'm going to place the second one here in. I'm going to bring them up together, and then what we use here is a big C-clamp. Put this C-clamp in here, and I'm going to tighten it down just a bit. Then you want to make sure that it's centered on the brass. Tighten it down a little bit, and then you want to make sure that it's as far forward as it will go, because this back part is where your lateral liners go, which are independent from the bearing itself. So I'm going to squeeze this down a little. Now I'm going to rotate the entire bearing over a little bit, get some oil on it, remove these blocks because you can't rotate the entire bearing without that, and that's going to expose the bottom of the brasses here. Now you'll see the gap opened up there. What I'm using is a compressible fiber material that will space the bearing out so that it will allow the line shaft to roll inside of it. This gets replaced generally every time we do the line shaft brasses. Sometimes it will last longer. The older ones, as you can see, have had some years of wear on them. So we don't want to reuse those because they're probably going to cause the bearing to overheat. Anyways.
Yeah, you can see it's worn on the end there.
As long as we have it apart, we're going to put new ones in. So we're going to drop this in here right now. Bring it back over.
And that's just so the bearing doesn't pinch on itself.
Right. Tighten it down just a little bit so I don't lose that. Come back over here. Bring my line shaft brasses back over. And I've got a top one. Now sometimes you'll have two on one end, one on the other. As long as the gap is enough to make the bearing roll, the line shaft roll on there. Now all I'm going to do here is open up the vise enough to where I can get this shim in there. So you can start to fit it in there. Loosen it up a little bit more. There we go. Now bring it up just a little so that it's not rubbing against the line shaft itself. All right. Now I'm going to tighten, didn't quite get that down all the way there. There we go. All right. Tighten down on this. Bring this as far forward as I can. And once I make sure this is centered, and this looks like I got to bring it up a little bit on the back side. You want to make sure it's centered so it's not pushing on one end more than the other or lower than the other. So a little bit higher. And you can see that's changed the bearing. Pull it forward again. Bring this back over. Now you can see, watch this. See it? And that is pretty much how you do it.
Beautiful.
You might have to cut different sizes, different thicknesses, depending on the wear of the brass itself. And of course, the lateral liners will go in when we put the shaft, the entire shaft in. But all we're doing here is making sure that the line shaft will rotate in the brass, not hang up. It's got oil on it, on the surface. And you can see on its own, it's dropping over. So I pull this over. See?
Excellent.
Tends to want to go back. So I'm going to go from here, and I'll go back over and do that one next.
And then just to flip it over there, this box here on top is where you put the waste, and then so for the
Correct.
oiling.
There'll be waste in here, and that waste oil, gravity flow oil, goes into here, spreads itself out. You also put oil in through the lateral liners, every engine, every morning, as well as in these cuts here. You drop oil in there too, and as necessary while you're running. The back side here, of course, goes against the axle. We'll have some shims there, and we'll probably have some shims underneath there for the wear on the line shaft. But that's another process of adjusting. But this is the big thing you want to watch out for here. You don't want to overheat a line shaft brass. So if that thing will rotate like that with oil on it, with those shims in there, it's good, because the pressure on here is going to be the same as collapsing the box with your nuts on there. So we're good on this one. This one's ready to go.
Fantastic, Greg. Thank you so much. And you can see here, there is the line shaft brass with the shim sitting on top, ready to go. And then that whole assembly will be finished. And if we look over here, here's number 10, it's waiting. And if we walk up here to locomotive 15, you'll see that the front truck is already assembled. And if you see that brass right there, that's sticking out on that side and then sticking out on that side, that is the same line shaft assembled on the locomotive, ready to go. And underneath here is, this is the box, so they add the oil, and you can see the waste right there. That oil will go down to the top to that box that we had seen on the other line shaft brass. Hope you enjoyed this week's tour, and look forward to seeing you all next week.